Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, presented by Bearded Iris, here to preview Arkansas's matchup with Connecticut in the NCAA tournament. You can catch that if you'd like to go. That game will be in Las Vegas. That'll be 6:15 Central. If you're catching on TV, that is on CBS. The predictive computers, we average Ken Pomeroy, Bart Torvik, BPI, and Jeff Sagarin have Connecticut at about a 4.7-point favorite with a 68% chance to win. Blake, my goodness, this is a matchup. If you'd asked me before the season, what are games you'd love to see in the NCAA tournament? I think I could have easily matched these teams up. They are athletic as all get out. They are fun to watch. The Must Bus is rolling. But guess what? So is UConn after a little bit of a midseason slump. The Huskies, one of the top statistical teams in the tournament. I had Connecticut in my championship game in my bracket coming into the tournament. I haven't seen much to move off the Huskies. But my goodness, Arkansas is playing well too. This one should be a dandy.
Yeah, I thought UConn was the best team in the country up until about January 1st. They looked really good. That obviously included, wins over Alabama, and we talked about that game back in November. But we also talked about Arkansas back in November as a Final Four championship type team, and of course that was with Brazil, and the expectation that Smith would be back eventually, and he is. And so I think this is such a kind of fun matchup based off of that, knowing where these two teams were, but they also both kind of hit that stretch in what late December, early January, where they were not playing their best basketball, and now they both made it here. So it's kind of a full circle type thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough matchup for Arkansas because you look at what UConn's done, and Sonogo's tremendous. Hawkins is really good. They've got Tristan Newton, somebody else who averages double figures. Caravan, that they've got a lot of good players and guys that certainly have experience and good size. And UConn's one of those teams that just does a lot of things well, and those are the kind of teams you like to pick in March because they don't really have a lot of weaknesses. And you've seen the bad during that one stretch, but you haven't really seen a whole lot since then. So yeah, this is on paper it's a tough matchup for the Hawks.
Well, Arkansas knocked out the number one seed in the bracket, Kansas. Debo Davis was tremendous in that game, maybe the best game of his career. He gets 21 points. Ricky Council, who's just been so consistent for the Razorbacks, gets 21. Nick Smith, we have heralded his return all year. It has been hit and miss, and it was a miss on Saturday. He didn't score, got benched for key parts of the game. Didn't matter. Arkansas had enough guys step up. Jordan Walsh was solid again. Boy, you just keep thinking if Smith can give them something, they're awfully tough to beat, but they figured it out without him. This is the team that once again is playing its best ball at the right time. It will just take you to the hole and make you foul or pay for it with the layup one way or the other. Arkansas's got pieces in reserve. Jalen Graham didn't play much. He can help them out in a game like this at times. It's just a very intriguing roster situation going into this game.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we know Russ is going to lean on the guys that are clicking, and he's going to lean on what works. And we kind of saw that in the Kansas game. It's like, well, Smith's on the bench. Well, yeah, I mean, it's the other lineup was working better at the time, and I think that is just that is something that I think you look at here and understand it's going to be the same way. I mean, this team as it stands right now, it's Devo Davis and Ricky Council are the two biggest, I think, drivers of what this team can be. And but yet that Smith and Anthony Black and even Jordan Walsh, like these are all guys that have gained so much more experience now. Playing together. Although, as we said, it's just there weren't a lot of games together for those three this season because Smith was back late, and so I think it's just that chemistry. You can take a little while to build that and adjust to what you need to adjust to. But yeah, I mean, I think you just look at Arkansas's plan in this game. I mean, it has to be the same, right? It has to be attack, 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 and they're not a great 3-point shooting team. And people will point out, well, yeah, UConn's a great 3-point field goal percentage defense type team. That's great, but Arkansas probably not going to shoot a lot of threes, and
No.
nor should they, as we said, nor should they shoot a lot of threes. And so I think we look at it from that standpoint. I mean, Arkansas's bread and butter is attacking the rim. We saw that in the Kansas game. That's why they had success. It's also getting the free throw line. And I had to pull up the numbers here. And UConn 261st nationally in fouls per game because it's a very physical team, right? I mean, this is going to be a very physical game. This is going to feel like an SEC game because that's just what we expect, right? And we talked about that in other preview videos that some teams outside the SEC have a tough time adjusting. We thought Duke had a tough time adjusting to Tennessee. I don't think UConn's going to have a tough time adjusting to Arkansas just based on the physicality because that's what UConn is all about. They are a hard nosed, aggressive, type team. And I don't know that it's going to be a huge adjustment for them, whereas some other teams we've seen in the tournament has been. But they do, tend to foul because there is a physical style to their defense, and so they're 261st nationally in fouls per game. So that's something I think if you see Arkansas continue to stay in attack mode, it's looking on the other side, right? How great would Arkansas feel about their chances if all of a sudden Sonogo gets in foul trouble early, or you know those kind of things? And those are the things you have to look at in these kind of matchups because you do have an Arkansas team, as we said, that's leaning on maybe a shorter rotation, but as we've seen, there are other guys who are stepping up and just making big plays now. And I think that's it. They just have to attack this UConn team and continue to know that if they're going to win this game, it's going to come inside the arc. And I think that's just something that we're used to now with Arkansas. And so, yeah, I think that's a big aspect here for them. So,
All right, let's talk about the Huskies for a minute. Adam Sonogo is Connecticut's superstar. He is 6'9", 245. He looks like an NFL tight end. Jordan Hawkins and Tristan Newton are double-digit scores for them in the backcourt. They win a combined 7 of 9 from 3 in the win over St. Mary's. Now, Connecticut's got its limitations at some places. You talked about being foul-prone, which kind of plays to Arkansas's favor. But when we previewed Arkansas's matchup with Kansas, one thing I pointed out was that Kansas maybe was not as good as the resume suggested in some ways. You looked into that team offensively. You saw Kansas teams that were pretty elite shooting teams. That was not the case. Kansas is not a terrific team shooting from 2, 3, or the foul line. Connecticut is significantly better in that regard. And I think that's where the Huskies really present a challenge for Arkansas here.
yeah, I mean, I just think you look at what do we always say, right? Just well-rounded teams, like teams that can do a lot of things well. They're one of those teams, right? They're probably why you picked them to advance to the national championship because you just felt like in any matchup, they have some strengths that can mesh well with other teams, no matter where it's at, because they don't have a lot of weaknesses. Like I said, if you want to try to find a few, I mean, what, Chris? They do. They'll foul a
Fouling
little
a
bit
lot.
because they're physical. They'll turn the ball over a little bit. I mean, they're 226 nationally, I think, in turnovers. At about 13 turnovers a game. And as we know, Arkansas can force some turnovers based on the pressure type of style that they want to play defensively. And so, yeah, I mean, there's you mentioned all that stuff. Like, I think it's just for me with UConn, it's just understanding that if to beat them, I mean, it's just going to take one of those type of, I think, quite honestly, I think it's either you got to make shots against them defensively. And I know that sounds very basic, but like it is, you talked about what they have on the other side with Sonogo and what he can do. Um, just kind of look at the rotation as a whole. And you see a lot of guys there that have built the chemistry together and are playing as well as they are. And yeah, like I mean, they're a good offensive rebounding team. Which again, I know Arkansas is used to seeing in the SEC. There's a lot of those kind of teams that do that. So limiting second chance opportunities. But there is so much to like about this UConn team because they're, top 15 efficiency on offense and defense. And I mean, I don't know, Chris, like how else do we even frame it? Like this is a national championship caliber team because of what they present, played a tough schedule. They're used to these kind of grind games that you get in March. Haven't really had many thus far, right? They blew out Iona. They beat St. Mary's by 15. But, Arkansas presents some different challenges. And so I'm more curious just to see how, UConn adjusts to Arkansas, knowing how Arkansas plays. So I think that that's another kind of fun aspect here when you look at it.
Well, look, every team has some weaknesses, right? And Connecticut, we've talked about being a little foul prone, but you just look, this team is so solid. Third in adjusted offensive efficiency, 14th in adjusted defensive efficiency, playing very well from February on. If you want to nitpick, one thing that is often suggested is a precursor for a Final Four or national championship preseason AP poll. I had a hard time believing this till I looked it up, but Connecticut actually was not ranked in the preseason poll. I don't know how. It was second out in receiving votes. So the voters didn't perceive maybe Connecticut as being as talented as it turned out to be. Number two, Connecticut did have a pretty rough stretch. From December 31st through January the 25th, Connecticut lost 6 of 8 games. That included games to St. John's and Seton Hall, which didn't make the tournament. But man, from that point on, starting with January 31st, a 14-point road win at DePaul. Connecticut has lost just twice. That to Creighton by 3 points in Omaha and to Marquette by 2 points in the Big East tournament. So, yeah, you can find some things with Connecticut, but it's just got the shooting. It's got more experience than Arkansas. It is played in a brutal league and played pretty well. I'm not saying I can't find reasons to move off that and pick Arkansas because Arkansas, the computers love this team, and that is coming through in March when a lot of people said, hey, they're not as good as the ranking or the seeding. Well, they're every bit that talented and then some. But yeah, I think that Connecticut to me can neutralize some of what Arkansas does, and at the end of the day can shoot the ball better. And that's why I'm going to stick with that pick.
Yeah, UConn can make it a grind. I mean, they can grind you out, and it's a 40-minute game, and it can feel like, an 80-minute game playing UConn. But I think you can say the same about Arkansas when they're at their best because they are a team that can be physical. So I think there are some similarities in that regard. I think just matching that physicality is not going to be a problem for either team. The teams that have had success against UConn, I'm looking at the numbers here. You look at some of the games, right, that they've lost this season. Xavier shot 62% from 2 against them. Marquette shot 56% from 2 against them. 62% St. John's. 54% Seton Hall. 55% Xavier. 59% Marquette. So these were teams that had success inside the arc, attacking, getting easy shots. Can Arkansas do that? Are they going to make that their approach? I would be willing to guess they will. Now, it's going to be easier said than done. Again, it's not like everybody was able to have that success against UConn because, again, you're going to run into some physical play even when you're trying to attack them. And that's where, like I mentioned, getting us a no-go and foul trouble, those kind of things, they can all change the aspect of this game. It's a one-game series. It's win or go home. Like, we can say, well, maybe this isn't a trend that usually happens, but it can happen. And so I think you look at all those things. Our picks ultimately mean nothing. We do these for fun. We're not professional bettors. We always say that. I don't know, Chris. I'm just going to keep rolling right along with the Muss magic. We've seen this team in this spot before. Devo Davis is just like, he is refusing to let this team lose right now. Ricky Council, I think you can say the same in that regard. Arkansas has been the last team standing in the SEC for back-to-back seasons. They made the Elite Eight back-to-back years, and nobody really gave them much of a chance to maybe get to that point, thinking they would get there. Specifically last year, given the matchup with the Zags. Maybe I am just trying to will that matchup back into existence, knowing that the Arkansas-Gonzaga rematch is still on the table. So, like I said, I mean, UConn could certainly win this game. I think this is a tougher matchup probably on paper than the Kansas game was, just because I think UConn has a lot of things that can sort of counter what Arkansas can be at its best. But why not? I'll be in the driver's seat of the Muss Bus, Chris, for at least one more game, and we'll roll right along with our snacks and all that. But yeah, this will be a tough one because I really like this UConn team, and like I said earlier in the season, I think when people were still on the train of somebody else being the best team in the country, I was like, I think this is the best team out there, and they've been playing like it at times, and so it will be a challenge for Arkansas. But why not, Chris? I'll stay on the Muss Bus for now.
So you're going to pander and let me be the bad guy here, aren't
Not
you?
pandering. I honestly think that I've seen this team. I just saw this team beat Kansas. What do you mean? This isn't pandering. I mean, I just saw them beat Kansas. So, I mean, don't tell me they don't have a shot here. I think I'm staying on the must bus.
All right, you made your pick. I made mine. When we do the recap video, loser of the pick goes shirtless. Is that how we're doing this?
No, we're not doing that at all. No,
we won't. We like our audience too much to expose them to that. But I'll tell you what.
We'll bring Eric Musselman on for the shirtless portion of the segment.
If Arkansas, if we can do that, we will take this channel to a new level. If I lose my pick and Arkansas wins, first of all, Arkansas fans, I'll be happy for you. Second of all, I will own it, and we'll have some fun with that. I will figure something. I've got something in mind. We'll see. So the must bus. Oh, need more caffeine. The must bus either will keep rolling or we'll get a flat in Vegas. Either way, we will have you covered. We are covering every SEC team with previews and recaps in the NCAA tournament, even the NIT, Vandy fans. We're here for you with that too. Best way to get that, hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing. If you hit the like button, that also helps our analytics. We are Southeastern 14. He is Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We are presented by Bearded Iris. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon with more SEC basketball and baseball videos.